Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Over the weekend, we received numerous confirmed reports of federal agents from ICE and Customs and Border Patrol abusing their power, intimidating innocent civilians, and waging war on our people. All of this has been aimed at causing chaos and mayhem in the hopes of creating a pretext to deploy military troops against Chicago and Broadview and other suburbs, just as the president is doing right now in Oregon. Moments ago, the Illinois National Guard received word that the Department of Homeland Security has sent a memo to the Department of War seeking the deployment of 100 military troops to Illinois, claiming a need for the protection of ICE personnel and facilities. What I have been warning of is now being realized. One thing is clear, none of what Trump is doing is making Illinois safer. 2 weeks ago, a man was shot and killed by ICE in Franklin Park, Illinois.
Breaking news, a man is dead and an ICE agent seriously hurt after an immigration arrest ended in gunfire in Franklin Park. Our Suzanne Lemonnier has been poring over surveillance video that captured what happened.
In this surveillance video from a nail salon, you see ICE officers pull up in a Jeep with lights flashing right in front of a silver Subaru. The Department of Homeland Security says the man behind the wheel is Silverio Villegas Gonzalez. Officers walk over to the car. One goes to the passenger side window, the other to the driver's side window. The officer at the passenger side appears to try to open the door. Then Villegas Gonzalez starts backing up, then drives away. You still see the officer who was at the passenger side door in the video. But what you don't see is the officer who was at the driver's side window. DHS says Villegas Gonzalez refused to follow law enforcement commands and drove his car at law enforcement officers, hitting an officer, then dragging him as he fled the scene. In this other surveillance video from a nearby business, you see the truck driver go west down Grand Avenue. A short time later, you hear what sounds like 2 gunshots. The statement from DHS says, fearing for his own life, the officer fired his weapon. After leaving the scene with police, Villegas Gonzalez crashed his Subaru, ending up under this truck. The truck driver posted this video on social media.
I'm a CDL truck driver, and a car hit my trailer because I think ICE tried to pull him over, and he crashed into my trailer.
You also see 2 officers on the ground next to Villegas Gonzalez. Jose Pedro de Blas works at a nearby auto shop. De Blas captured this video of the scene after the shooting happened.
Shortly after, ICE issued a statement justifying the killing, saying the federal agent was seriously injured. The Chicago Sun-Times has brought to light that the injuries were, in the agent's own words, nothing major. A man is dead. A community is shaken up. And we are yet again left with more questions than answers. On Saturday, federal agents wreaked havoc on the village of Broadview, a small suburb west of Chicago with 8,000 residents. I want to recognize Broadview Mayor Katrina Thompson, who is here today, and thank her for her strong and vocal leadership on behalf of her community. I also want to thank Broadview's police chief, Thomas Mills, for his steady leadership and partnership with state and surrounding local law enforcement. In Broadview, people nonviolently holding signs and chanting against brutality, expressing their First Amendment rights. have been regularly attacked with chemical agents like tear gas, pepper spray, rubber bullets, and flashbangs. Agents reportedly unholstered their guns and pointed them at protesters. In their own words, ICE intended to unleash, quote, a shit show in the Broadview community. Without provocation and acting like jackbooted thugs, ICE has attacked and detained members of the press, including an independent journalist. A CBS Chicago correspondent had chemical munitions fired at her car where there were no protesters in sight.
Pay attention as we dissect this reporter's story that the ICE agents shot at her for no reason.
Also yesterday, one of our reporters, Asal Razai, was in her car when an ICE agent shot a projectile at her just outside the ICE processing facility in West Suburban Broadview. Our Marissa Sulik shares what Asal experienced, which is now the center of a criminal investigation.
You'll hear me multiple times have to clear my throat as I inhaled a lot of some of the powder that you saw here.
Our own Asal Razai says she was driving near the Broadview ICE facility entrance Sunday morning to see if any activity was taking place. It's a job she, as well as many of our reporters and photojournalists, have been doing the last few weeks as protests continue to break out. But Asal says she was turning her car around when an ICE agent in tactical gear shot a pepper ball from behind the fence about 50 feet away.
An ICE agent that was masked pointed his weapon and shot directly at my car. He saw my window was open and he shot right here. You can see the point of impact right there.
You can see white powder exploded on the hood of her car, windshield, and even engulfed the inside.
And I was sitting right there with my window open. A lot of it went inside of my car and on my face. I immediately felt it burning. I started throwing up.
Bonus.
My face has been on fire for at least the last 10 minutes or so.
As for Asal, she says the only thing that helped her after she was hit with a pepper ball was a cold, wet rag to soothe her face from the chemicals. We don't know why agents shot at her, but she did receive help from a photojournalist and a fire department official who happened to be near there.
The scariest part about this is I could have been anybody, and I could have been killed. I was driving, my vehicle was moving when they shot directly at my car.
Asal did file a police report, and Broadview police say they do expect Homeland Security to cooperate with their investigation. We reached out to Homeland Security and did not hear back. In Broadview, Marissa Sulik, CBS News, Chicago.
And we have received many reports of U.S. citizens being detained for simply stepping onto the public street. That brings us to yesterday. On a beautiful weekend, when families were out enjoying their day in Chicago, armed Border Patrol agents were downtown marching up and down Michigan Avenue, harassing and intimidating residents and tourists.
We work for you. We work for you. We work for you. We work for you.
In Millennium Park, federal agents interrogated a family as their small daughter held onto her doll and appeared to try to translate for her parents. Officers carried large, unholstered, offensive weapons downtown, dressed in camouflage and masks. Building tradesmen near Tribune Tower, simply doing their jobs, were detained by federal agents while working on a construction site. Separately, 24 federal agents chased down a man, handcuffed him, and asked him for his papers. Meanwhile, ICE's chief offender, Gregory Bovino, has been leading the disruption and causing mayhem while he gleefully poses for photo ops and TikTok videos. Bovino even admitted on the record.
Protester 26-year-old Paul Ivory accused of grabbing an agent's helmet and pulling his head down, threatening to kill him. Court documents allege he took off running and jumped on a car while trying to get away. He sobbed in the arms of his defense attorney as he was ordered held pending a detention hearing.
He is a beloved member of our community.
That they are making arrests based on how you look. Based on how you look. How you look. That's the baseline. They're not targeting violent criminals or gang members. They're arresting tamale vendors and delivery men and shaking down families. Donald Trump and Kristi Noem and Tom Homan said they were targeting the worst of the worst criminals. They lied, and they continue to lie.
We have an administration who is selling this narrative that they're only picking up criminals, and yet the people that are being picked up have been in this country for 40 to 50 years and haven't committed a crime. Have been in this country for 40 to 50 years and haven't committed a crime. I'm Puerto Rican and Cuban, born a United States citizen.
Chair recognizes Alderman Lopez.
Good afternoon, members of the City Council. Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of, and all of those who are still here. I rise in support of recognizing National Hispanic Heritage Month. But as I read the resolution, I'm seeing the culture that I've heard so eloquently talked about being whitewashed, even in the words written on this paper. To say we're Hispanic, to say you're Latino is one thing. But we continue to see our heritage, the language of our heritage manipulated and torn apart. To go from Latinx to Latin A, God only knows what's coming up next year. I know that our communities are in fact under attack, particularly the Mexican undocumented community, making up almost 50% of the collateral captures that we've seen under the Trump administration, as Homeland Security and ICE go after the more than 2,000 high priority targets from those migrant asylum seekers that the previous administration allowed to come into our country, that Democratic and Republican governors allowed to come to our city, that this administration and the one before decided to spend nearly $1 billion on. It pains me, absolutely pains me, to see all of those on the Southwest side in particular, those Mexican communities where we have many who are here, undocumented, getting swept up because so many in this room, including this administration, challenged Donald Trump to go find them themselves. We had the opportunity to not only be a welcoming city, but to say, you know what, if you choose to do something illegal, if you choose to do something dangerous, if you choose to do something that is contrary to our norms, our laws, then we should have the ability to work with immigration to deal with you in a very different way. We punted before Donald Trump took office. We said, no, we're going to follow the yet another failed Lightfoot policy and say that we are going to make no exceptions. None. Mr. President, you, many of the people in this room, doubled down and said we will never, never work with the Trump administration to go after those individuals who break the law and criminal matters. Many of you in this room said, if you want them, you go in the communities and find them yourself. You even said that yourself, Mr. President, time and time again. The problem with that, ladies and gentlemen, is that they know who they're going after. And when they knock on the door for someone who they're looking for, and the wrong person answers, that's the person that gets taken away. You challenge them to go do that, and yet you cry here and say we're under attack, that we're going to stand in solidarity. You should have thought about that 8 months ago, when you had the opportunity to grant in the law the transfer and custody of individuals from CPD to ICE when someone chooses to start shooting at people, sell drugs, human trafficking, or any of those other crimes. Spare me the fake tears, because you brought this on our communities yourself. And you're a hypocrite, and someone who's never had a deal with undocumented, because you come from an island where you're guaranteed citizenship. So don't you dare talk to me about what my people have to go through.
Alderman, direct your comments to me, sir, please.
Fine, then I want her censured for calling me a hypocrite in this room. And I make that motion right now, Mr. Chairman, because you allowed her to say it.
Did not allow anyone to say anything.
Then I move that Alderman.
There's a motion on the floor to censure.
Censured.
All those in favor of the censure of Alder Fuentes signify by saying aye.
There's a roll
All those
call.
opposed say.
Has to be a roll call, please.
All right, there's a motion. It's been voted down to censure.
There was a
Ms. Fuentes.
request.
Motion fails. Please continue.
Well, I'm glad that at least you all are consistent, including yourself, Mr. President. You're steamrolling individuals who you know nothing about, pretending to understand communities from a point of privilege that other people do not have. You want to stand here and make as though you're fighting for everyone when you're not? When you've put a target on the backs of every undocumented Mexican in the city of Chicago? You did that. Enjoy your fake heritage now. Because what you've defended, what you continue to stand up for, has nothing to do with those who are most impacted. Those are the people I deal with, I represent. The ones who come to me when none of you answer the goddamn phone on how to keep them safe.
Alderman, I would
Mr. President, I'm going to say
Please.
this.
Yeah, please do that.
You all, including yourself,
Yes,
have
direct
brought
towards-
this on the people of the city of Chicago. And as you sit here today and say, we're going to celebrate your heritage, you are the hypocrites. You are the liars. You are the ones who allowed this to happen in your communities because you had the chance to protect people and said no. So how dare you to stand here today and act as though everything's okay, that you're somehow fighting for our children, fighting for our futures, fighting for your people. Mock me all you want, but I guarantee you, those that know. Those that feel it, agree with me, and understand that all of you should be ashamed of yourselves.
Thank you, Alderman.
60% of the individuals that ICE has taken in Illinois this year have no criminal convictions of any kind. ICE is running around the loop harassing people for not being white. In any other country, if federal agents fired upon journalists and protesters when unprovoked, what would we call it? If federal agents marched down busy streets, harassing civilians and demanding their papers, what would we say? I don't think we'd have any trouble calling it what it is: authoritarianism. So let's not pretend it's something else when it happens in our American cities. The MAGA Republican-supported invasion of Portland and Chicago and LA and Washington, D.C. is not making us any safer. Instead, it is putting our people in danger. This is an attack on neighborhoods, on lawful residents, on U.S. citizens. That's not preventing crime, as Donald Trump claims. That's threatening public safety. But as I've said many times, for Donald Trump and the MAGAs in Congress, this is not about fighting crime or about public safety. This is about sowing fear and intimidation and division among Americans. It was about creating a pretext to send armed military troops into our communities. This is about consolidating power in Donald Trump's hands. What he plans to do with that power, now or during the 2026 elections, should worry all of us. When you add to that the Trump administration's effort to label as dangerous free speech critical of him, White House senior staff calling the Democratic Party fascist, The Trump-appointed FCC chair threatening to revoke broadcast licenses and the approval of a merger in order to silence late-night comedians. Trump's threats to jail political opponents. You cannot call this anything except an attack on the Constitution of the United States. But let's also talk about what he's doing to the economy with all these attacks on our communities. Our small businesses suffer when our residents and visitors who are shopping and eating are made to feel unsafe by the jackbooted thugs roaming around a peaceful downtown. Parents are now scared to send their kids to school for fear the troops will grab their children. Students are afraid they'll come home and find their parents have been disappeared by ICE. This is no way to live. We are here together today, elected officials, business leaders, the faith community, law enforcement, educators, community organizations, united in our opposition to these flagrant abuses of power by the federal government. With one voice, we are telling this unwarranted and unconstitutional occupation by ICE and potentially by military troops to get out of Chicago. You are not helping us. The state of Illinois and all of us will continue to fight this with everything that we have. So, people of Illinois, we need your help. Get out your cell phones, record and narrate what you see. Put it on social media. Peacefully ask for badge numbers and identification. Speak up for your neighbors. We need to let the world know that this is happening and that we won't stand for it. So keep documenting. It could make a world of difference for someone, perhaps for all of us.